So basically, the first thing which I want to do in this lecture is to explain you the mechanism of atherosclerosis, all right, which is a coronary heart disease. So please do go through those. So as you have seen over here, I have written, refer to the Word document. In the Word document, I have laid down the mechanism of atherosclerosis in a flow chart form. So I'll quickly just share it with you to show you how it looks. And this is available on your Canvas site, the Word document. All right, so this is just roughly to show you this is how it looks. And I'll be explaining this to you in the PowerPoint, but the details of which is present in the Word document. All right, so now I'll share the slides again. Just bear with me. All right, okay. So guys, over here, I have explained the mechanism of atherosclerosis in a diagrammatic format. Okay, so you don't, if this is scaring you, as I said, don't worry. You have the entire content written well, properly typed in a Word document, and this will be available to you on Canvas. This is generally, I do have, say basically, I have a A4 size paper. And when I do these online lectures, when I do the face-to-face lectures, that is when I have, you have the OHP projector, the overhead projector, on which I place the paper, and it is much more easier to understand. But yes, so basically I had to say, just take a screenshot of that paper and I had to copy paste it in the slide. So rest assured your quality of learning will not be impacted because the exact mechanism is available for you in the Word document. All right, so I'll get started. So what happens in atherosclerosis? As you know, it happens in the coronary artery, which is the main artery that supplies blood to your heart. All right, so we are talking about atherosclerosis, predominantly the coronary artery, the big artery that supplies blood to your heart. So the inner wall of the coronary artery, that is called as the endothelium. All right, and this endothelium, which is the inner lining of the coronary artery, that gets damaged. So the injury over here, which I have shown these abrasion signs, this is the coronary artery, the endothelium wall getting damaged. And how does it get damaged? It gets damaged because of, say, hypertension, because of, say, genetics, or it could be because of chronic sublime inflammation. All right, so yes, it could get damaged because of multiple reasons. The key ones which I have written over here are hypertension, genetics, inflammation. All right, so when you have abrasion on your endothelium wall, abrasion meaning like, you know, if you scratch your skin, it becomes red and sore. So basically something like that, but this is happening in the inner wall of your artery. All right, and what flows through the artery? You have blood which is flowing through the artery. All right, and blood carries a lot of nutrients. It also carries a lot of waste products to be given to the kidney, to be filtered, to be eliminated, etc. All right, so in the blood, what you have is your LDL cholesterol, you have your total cholesterol, and then you have dead cells. As I said, that things which the blood takes to various organs for filtration and excretion. All right, and then because it's an abrasion, you also have fibrin in the blood. So basically what happens in the abrased area, you have LDL cholesterol which is sticking, you have total cholesterol which is sticking, and on that you have dead cells which are sticking, and then you have a fiber mesh forming on it, which is fibrin. All right, so now this is called as a fatty streak. Fatty streak, basically it is not hard, it is soft. All right, because you don't have calcium deposition at this stage. This is a soft, say, the soft plaque is called as fatty streak. All right, so plaque is usually the term which is used when it is calcified, when it is hard. When plaque is not hard, that is when it is called as a fatty streak. All right, so basically these deposition, they decrease the diameter of the artery. That is called as thrombosis. Okay, decrease in the diameter of the artery or your blood vessels because of deposition. This is called as thrombosis. So then what happens? You have these fatty streaks which keep on increasing in size. All right, so this keeps on increasing in size and diameter keeps on decreasing. Okay, and then what happens? Then you have all this LDL and total cholesterol which is stuck over there. And of course, there is a great chances that this cholesterol will get oxidized. All right. So how will it get oxidized? Because of the oxygen molecules which are also floating in the blood. All right. So this cholesterol will react with the oxygen, and this will start creating inflammatory responses. Okay. So oxidation of your fat molecules which are stuck in the fatty streak, this will create an inflammatory response. And as you have seen in the diabetes lecture, whenever you have inflammatory responses, okay, when you have oxidation of something happening, the first thing which happens is triggering of your immune system. Now you have this oxidized fat which is sitting over there. So your immune system will tell monocytes to go to the arteries and start eating these oxidized fat molecules. Okay. So monocyte will turn into macrophages because they start eating the oxidized LDL and cholesterol. Okay, so these are all your monocytes, the one which has two eyes, basically in my diagram. Okay, they start eating all of this oxidized fat. All right. So of course, you know, when monocytes start eating something, they are called as macrophages. Okay. So when monocytes keep eating these oxidized fat, they become bigger and bigger and larger, and then they are called as foam cells. Okay. So now these foam cells also get stuck to this layers of fatty streaks which are ongoing and which are forming. Okay. So it's like a loop. So you have fatty streak which is forming, monocytes are trying to eat them, but there is more fatty streak forming. These monocytes have now turned into macrophages. They get stuck on this fatty streak. So this keeps becoming bigger and bigger. So now on this foam cells, you have calcium deposition taking place. This takes place over time. Okay. So imagine this process taking place over several number of years. Okay. So that's why this may look very quick, but this does not happen so instantly. All right. It takes several years for this to happen. All right. So when you have calcium deposition on these foam cells, that is when this fatty streak turns into plaque. Plaque meaning which is really hard. All right. The blockage, this is now really hard, and that's why it's called as a plaque. All right. So now what happens? Now you have smooth muscle cells. Okay. SMC, which I have written over here. Smooth muscle cells. They travel from the inner wall of the artery and they start stucking on this plaque. Okay. And they start forming a fiber mesh sort of a thing. So the smooth muscle cells, they look really elongated, oval in shape. Okay. These ones are called as smooth muscle cells. You know how you had fibrin, which starts forming a mesh on the fatty streak. Similarly, you have the smooth muscle cells, which starts forming a fibrous mesh on this plaque. Okay. All of this in totality, what is it doing? It is decreasing the diameter of the artery. All right. And now this is a plaque. This is really, really hard. So imagine that the diameter is decreasing, but it is like putting in bricks. Okay. So it's so hard. All right. So yes, when you have the diameter decrease, what is going to happen? One point, it may so happen that there is 90% blockage. This is what you must have seen. You must have seen it, the medical professional doctors say that yes, there is a 90% blockage. So what does this mean? It means when there is just a 10% passageway remaining, this is called as a 90% blockage. All right. So what is happening? So basically all this plaque has taken a lot of space, and because there is such tiny pathway for the blood to travel from one end. So look at my mouse over here, from one end to the other end, because the plaque keeps increasing and there is very little blood which is traveling on the other side, what will happen? This will cause necrosis of that blood vessel. Okay, so if you remember necrosis, it means death of cell. Death of cell is happening because you do not have sufficient blood traveling over there, oxygen, nutrient traveling over there. So at the end, the blood vessel dies. Okay, and this then results in heart attack. All right, so myocardial infarction is when you have such a severe blockage that 90%, for example, that you have very, very limited amount of bloods and nutrients traveling to the other end. This is resulting in the death of that blood vessel. Over here, the blood vessel we are talking about is the coronary artery. All right. And on the other hand, what may happen is that you may have a piece of this plaque which breaks off. All right. And this is basically, this is what they call the blood clot. Okay. And then it keeps traveling in the blood and then gets stuck in some of these small little micro capillaries. Now these blood clots breaking and they're sticking into these microcapillaries. This is called as embolism. All right. So then when this gets stuck in these tiny blood vessels, the same thing is going to happen. When you have a big blood clot which is stuck in a tiny blood vessels, you won't be having blood flowing on the other end, no oxygen, no nutrient transportation on the other end, necrosis of the cell. And then what will happen? Then depending upon where this blood clot is, it may result in a stroke, meaning, for example, if it happens in the brain, all right, or it may burst the blood vessel because the blood clot is so big and the blood is pressurizing. It's trying to go on the other end, and these microcapillaries are so delicate, they are like thinner than your hair as well. All right, so they are so thin and delicate that they may burst. All right, so you may have different types of hemorrhages. Okay, so and if it happens, say, in your feet, that is when you have deep vein thrombosis. Okay, so depending upon which area of your body this blood clot is happening, the outcome will be different. And all right, so hopefully guys, this gives you a good idea. So this diagram just in itself looks overwhelming, but I have taken you slowly and surely throughout the entire process, so you know what it means. Basically, as I said, that I like learning pathophysiological mechanisms through diagrams because it helps you to remember long term. So this is my diagrammatic representation, but rest assured, you have a proper written Word document for the same. So now moving through the physiological process of how the body increases your blood pressure. Okay, so guys, remember, anybody who has low blood pressure, sometimes you know how individual don't drink water throughout the day because of XYZ reason, and then they may start showing symptoms of low blood pressure, which is like headache, dizziness, and nausea and things. So this renin-angiotensin mechanism happens for anybody who is experiencing low blood pressure. Okay, so this is a normal, healthy mechanism which happens for anybody. This becomes a problem when the renin-angiotensin mechanism is going on in a loop. All right, and when does it go on in a loop? We'll come to one of the reasons, dietary reasons for those. Okay, so now as I said, when an individual has low blood pressure, what happens? So this is kidney. Okay, so everything, as I said, I do a lot of diagrams and shorthand. So this kidney shaped thing is kidney. All right, so what does the kidney do? The kidney releases renin. Okay, and renin, what renin does is that it goes to the liver. This triangle over here, this is, so look at my mouse. So this over here is your liver. Okay, now your liver releases angiotensin. Okay, so what does renin do? Renin converts the angiotensin to angiotensin 1. Okay, it helps in the conversion of angiotensin to angiotensin 1. All right, so yes, these are all protein molecules. All right, so basically then you have angiotensin 1. It goes to your lungs. So these double triangles, they are lungs. Okay, so now what happens in the lungs? You have angiotensin 1, which is converted to angiotensin 2 with the help of enzyme which is called as angiotensin converting enzyme, ACE. Okay, so yes, you have angiotensin 1 converted to angiotensin 2 with the help of angiotensin converting enzyme. Now this angiotensin 2 goes back to your kidney. We started from the kidney, we end in the kidney. Okay, kidneys are very, very important for your blood pressure regulation. Okay, so you may think only heart, but no, kidneys as well. All right, so yes, now your angiotensin 2 goes back into the kidney. What does angiotensin 2 do? It activates the hormone aldosterone. All right, and aldosterone has two functions. It does two things. Aldosterone causes vasoconstriction of your blood vessels, meaning it makes your blood vessels narrower, because logically speaking, the blood pressure is low. All right, if you make it narrow, it will help to increase the blood pressure because the surface area increases. Okay, so imagine the surface area is this much. So yes, it's like the blood level will be low, just like logically, like, you know, as a layman term. Then if you have vasoconstriction, the same blood level will be high. It's like a broad glass versus a narrow glass. All right, so yes, so you have vasoconstriction of your blood vessels. And on the other hand, what aldosterone does is that it retains water, okay, because it wants to increase the blood pressure. But when it retains water, What also happens is automatically what happens is that you also retain sodium, all right? And sodium and potassium are opposite in nature. When sodium is retained, potassium will be automatically excreted, all right, through your urine, all right? So there is retention of water and sodium, and this net effect increases your blood volume, which increases your blood pressure, okay? So yes, this is a normal healthy mechanism. Any one of us who's experiencing a low blood pressure, this mechanism is going to happen, all right? So I hope this mechanism is simple and very clear. I can assure you that the mechanisms for this lecture cardiovascular disease, they are pretty simple and straightforward. So you won't have trouble, hopefully. Said hypertension prevention, okay, and management strategy is where you look at managing your sodium intake, all right? So basically, as I said, that because you had high salt in your diet, you got hypertension. That is not very common. As common hypertension is because of secondary underlying medical condition, all right? And the best thing about regulating sodium is for individual who are hypertensive patients is sodium regulation. Why? We will come to the mechanism why, all right? So if you see your 1 teaspoon of salt, just one normal teaspoon of salt, that is 2300 milligram of sodium, which is the upper limit of how much you should be having, okay, in a day, all right? So you just add 1 teaspoon of salt and something, and that's it. You can't have any more sodium, and you have a lot of hidden sodium. You have milk which is high in sodium, okay? You have your pulses and lentils also which have sodium, okay? So basically, yes, you have a lot of hidden sodium, but imagine 1 teaspoon and that's your upper limit. You haven't even accounted for the hidden sodium. So basically, that's why they say keep moderating your salt intake, all right? But yes, majority of your sodium is found more in processed foods, okay, because you added a lot as a preservative as well. Okay, so yes, your kidneys, as I said, they are very, very important. They are required to maintain a osmotic balance within sodium and potassium. The problem happens, sodium as a cause of hypertension, very rare, okay, but chronic high intake of sodium as a cause of hypertension, plausible, okay, and the mechanism is explained over here. So I have written the mechanism over here in a very, it's a very brief, in a very brief manner, but I thought it would be best for me to explain to you the actual mechanism as well, as to how chronic intake of sodium over a prolonged period of time, and we are not talking about only salt, please remember, this is chronic intake of sodium, which can be which can result in hypertension, okay? But as I said, the predominant causes, please remember, could be secondary under medical conditions. Why am I saying this? Because as practicing dietitians, when you have a hypertensive patient, it is very important to consider not just the sodium intake in his diet. Yes, that is going to be important because it's going to be an important management strategy for you to regulate their sodium intake. But you have to look at the underlying medical conditions, okay? And that will help you to tailorize the plan better. What if they have a kidney condition? Then just a low salt diet will not do, because you know with kidney condition comes the restriction or the management or regulation of phosphorus, potassium, and many other electrolytes, okay? So that's why it's important to look at the patient holistically. All right, so yes, what happens over here is that, for instance, when an individual eats a lot of sodium, now let's think about processed foods, okay? So when you're eating a lot of sodium, so yes, you know, these are electrolytes, they don't need insulin, all right, for their absorption. So you have all these electrolytes now in your blood, okay? So you have a lot of sodium in your blood, all right? So now this is what in old age terms our grandmas used to say, you have a thick blood, meaning you have high blood pressure. All right, so that thick blood is is indicating high solute concentration in your blood, which is sodium, okay, because you have eaten so much amount of, say, chips and crisp and all those things, biscuits and confectionery items. So now you have a lot of sodium in your blood, okay. So few of these students who were, say, from medical sciences and are not really nutrition, they asked, how is cake and all? Soda bicarb. Okay, so soda bicarb is one of the biggest thing you add in cakes. All right, so that in the food science reaction, soda bicarb helps you to release that carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide is released from the cakes and those pastries, That is what gives those little porous, holy structures in your cake. And that is what makes it nice and soft. Okay, apart from the eggs and butter and stuff like that. So yes, soda bicarb is nothing but sodium bicarbonate, which is sodium. All right. So yes, your cakes and pastries, this is how they have sodium. Okay, so yes, now because you have a lot of sodium in your blood, the water is drawn from your cells. Okay, so this, imagine this, you having a lot of chips and crisps, but you're not having enough amount of water. Okay, so now what happens is the water is drawn from your cells into the blood vessels. Okay, so yes, your cells now are getting dehydrated gradually, and all that water from the cell is going into your main bloodstream. All right, so yes, this is increasing your blood volume. Why? Because you want to have a osmotic balance. You can't have so much amount of solute and less amount of fluid concentration. It needs to have an osmotic balance. So yes, the first thing which happens is drawing water from the cell. So you have a water and you have a solute and solvent balance, which is your solute being your sodium and your solvent being your water. Okay, so yes, this increases your blood volume. All right, and now imagine the blood vessels can only expand and contract so much. Okay, so it's like a rubber band. If you're going to stretch it so much, at one point it's going to break. Okay, so yes, your blood vessels will expand only so much, but not more than that. And then what will happen? You will have an increased blood pressure. Okay, because of the increased blood volume, and this will lead to high blood pressure. Okay, so basically, yes, this is the first thing which happens, that your blood volume increases, but there is only so much capacity for your blood vessels to expand. All right, and therefore what results is increased blood pressure, because the surface area can only increase up to so much. All right, the diameter of your blood vessels. Now what is happening? The second thing which follows is that, yes, we know we have eaten a lot of sodium, chips and crisp and whatnot. All right, so yes, you have water which is drawn into your blood vessels. Okay, so yes, but remember, you cannot kill your cells. Okay, so you can only draw so much water from your cells into your blood vessels. Okay, so yes, you cannot dehydrate your cells. You cannot kill your cells, meaning you cannot dehydrate your cell. So then the body will register that, hang on, that's it. This is only so much water that I can draw from my cell, from the body cells. This individual's diet is just like this. This individual's diet is just eating a lot of processed food day in and day out for so many years. I have to start activating the other mechanism side by side. Okay, so once there is, say, only so much water that you can draw from your cell, then automatically the renin-angiotensin mechanism will start. Okay, the renin-angiotensin mechanism starts. You would say, contradict and say that, hang on, renin-angiotensin mechanism starts when there is low blood pressure. There is no issue of low blood pressure over here. But remember, in the renin-angiotensin mechanism, what does the aldosterone do? There are two functions: vasoconstriction, which is not what we want, but oh well, it's not take one, leave one. Okay, everything is going to happen in the body simultaneously, meaning yes, you will have vasoconstriction. Your aldosterone will not be like, oh, okay, this is because she's having so much of salt, let me not vasoconstrict and I'll just retain water and not throw it out in the urine. No, if aldosterone is activated, both the things will happen, meaning you will have vasoconstriction, which will automatically increase your blood pressure. You will have retention of water, which is what we ideally wanted. Why? Because there is a lot of solute in your blood. Okay, sodium. So we want a solvent. Your solvent is your fluid, your water. So this water retention is a good thing. But with this good thing, a lot of other things are happening which we don't want, but you can't choose one. Okay, so yes, you will have retention of water, which is going to increase the solvent concentration, but you will also have retention of sodium, which is what aldosterone does. Okay, automatically, organically, that's how it functions. So now that you have retention of not only water but also sodium, all right, now this sodium will further activate the renin-angiotensin mechanism, and this will keep running in a loop. Does that make sense? So this mechanism running in a loop chronically over a prolonged period of time results in chronic hypertension. Okay, and that is when management of hypertensive patient with regulation, moderation of sodium in their diet is so very important. Okay, so we can break this cycle at the end. All right, so the one way of preventing say a lot of sodium in your blood is manage your dietary intake. Okay, so yes, guys, I hope this mechanism has been very clear for you. Again, very straightforward, or maybe because yeah, I just know it so well now after so many years of studying nutrition that I find it very simple. But yes, just go through them, go through these video recordings whenever you're in doubt, and you will be fine. Okay, so rather than reading research articles, which may not make a lot of sense to you at this stage, it's good to go through something which is diagrammatic and someone talking through these diagrams. Okay.